Hello, welcome to the Q. So a little while ago I announced that I was going to do a YouTube war for the second anniversary of this channel with some subscribers, hoping to get some new people into playing this Axis and Allies on the YouTube channel. And a good friend of mine sent me a suggestion that I should do a video about with some hints and about how to go about filming your turn and those kind of things. And he actually sent me a video that he did a couple years ago for when they were first starting to get into the YouTube wars. But now that I think about it, when he invited me in, I didn't get a video. So I guess I had to learn the old-fashioned way. But anyway, in the video, he just talks through some things that you can expect and some things you can't expect, in a YouTube Wars video, and a lot of helpful information. So I thought I would do that. I'd make that video, but I thought, you know what, I might as well put it online for everyone. So other people maybe start their own YouTube wars. Maybe they get some hints. Maybe they find out what they want to do, what they don't want to do, based off what I'm saying. So, you can go different routes. There's no golden rule here of yes, do this, don't do that. Whatever works for you to get a turn filmed and out is probably going to be best. But there are some guidelines you should probably follow. So anyway, we'll look at what we film with. A lot of the filming I do, like right now, is with the digital SLR. And the advantage here, I've got this screen that flips out. And so right now I'm filming, but I'm watching myself, on the screen, right here on the camera on the tripod. So this is my older camera. But either way, it's very helpful for filming. I can hook it up to the computer, edit, and do all those kind of things. But for YouTube wars, I find it's easier to use my camera. With the digital SLR, you're going to need a larger tripod. And this is my smallest of the large tripods. And it's stable enough to hold the digital SLR and do that. But as you're moving it around the map, you've got to be careful with these big, feet and where you're going. And while you're filming, it's hard to keep that in mind. So with the camera, I can use these smaller tripods. Before I get into some of the details with this video, I just want to kind of give an overview. We'll look at the camera, what's best. Like I said, for me, the camera on my phone is best for a YouTube war. But I've seen other people use the digital SLRs. But also we'll look closely at some maneuvers, on the map. A good way to do your purchases and that kind of thing. So, but then we'll also look at some BBR specific, since that's the game we're going to be playing on the YouTube. So at the end, I'll put all the BBR specific stuff at the end of the video, so you could always watch just the first part. Because if you're playing Global War or just a regular, out of box, global 1940 Axis and Allies, or for that matter, any of the other games, you don't really need the BBR details. So I'll put those all at the end, and we'll go from there. All right, so besides using the bigger tripod, another downside to using this for a game turn is when it's over the table, a lot of times, it has an autofocus, and if you move in front of it, you'll see the focus come up, the focus go down. I've seen before where the turn starts out and everything's slightly out of focus, and they're talking, they're doing their buys and whatnot, and then they'll move something, and then all of a sudden it'll snap into focus. And that's kind of a downside to me, just because I've always been into photography and that kind of thing, but it's not the end of the world. One of the other things too that is a downside, the battery just died in this the camera doing the videoing right now. So I've had to restart in the middle, and I'll have to video edit, which, you know, is no big deal, but it's irritating, the battery, because when I looked to start it, it looked like the battery had a full cycle in it. But after using it and filming, and it shut off right in the middle of you know, the process here. So anyway, what I like to use instead of the SLR, digital SLR, is the phone. And the camera on it is good. The ease of operation for me to upload a video from the phone is immediately, I can, with the digital SLR, I've got to plug it into my computer. I've got to take that video footage and turn it into a video that can be uploaded to YouTube. The video on the phone, I go right to YouTube and can upload it directly from there. So it saves a lot of steps. I can get the videos out quicker. The cameras in these are really good. They don't have that focus in and out so much. Sometimes you can get a little too close maybe with the phone. But with the phone, you can use a smaller tripod. And a word of caution there, the first one I had was kind of a dinky little plastic one. And you notice you can't mount your phone directly to a tripod. You've got to get this device here that sits on top, and basically your phone snaps in there, and then you can tighten it down, and then that holds it on there. And the first setup I had the cheap little tripod. I had a plastic phone holder, and the phone holder broke, obviously. Sometimes I would get it and the tripod would fall over. So I graduated to a sturdier metal tripod, and it's about maybe 8 inches height, but it's solid, you know, metal. I mean, it's not superior steel or anything crazy like that, but it's heavy duty, it's metal, it's got rubber feet so it doesn't scratch your map. And then as far as the phone holder, I purchased for a few dollars more than the plastic a metal one as well. So this is held up really well, and it just mounts on there. You mount your phone, you know, with the camera facing, of course, and you can go around and do your turn. You can hold it like this when you're moving stuff, and that's a lot easier than holding the phone like this and getting your finger in front of the camera, you know, by accident, which I've seen that before too. So the tripod is a really good, a sturdy tripod, and it doesn't need to be, you know, huge. I mean, that's too big for what I would like to do. You know, like I said, to each his own. But one tip on using your phone is, and that's why I have this airplane here. It's keep holding it so I remember to mention it. Switch it to airplane mode, and that way text and phone calls don't come in and interrupt. Now, a text won't really interrupt your video unless you've got it set to, you know, have an audible sound whenever a text come in. Then that can be quite annoying, you know, in a video. But that'll cut that out. Like I said, the ease of use for me using the phone is far superior. And you can, you know, just kind of do this and hold and roll, but if you get a tripod, you just set it over the dice tray. You got both hands free. You can move about and do what you need to do without worrying about where this is viewing. And while you're viewing, obviously it's on this tripod, you're watching what's in the screen, so it's easy to keep things on screen. Now, occasionally I am moving the tripod around in my hand, and I'll get off screen and move something, and it won't be there in the screen. But like I said, that happens, which leads me into the next part of the YouTube games. We're here to do, have fun, obviously, and it's an easy way to play with people that are not, close by. Matter of fact, we've played some with some people from Canada. Right now in Global War 36 game, one of the guys is from Canada. I've played with, I don't know that I played with anybody on the Europe side, but there was a couple people that entered the contest for the YouTube war that I'm doing here in a couple weeks. They were from Europe, so that would have been interesting to actually get some of them in there. Another tip on your filming, whether you're going to use the camera or your phone, the camera on your phone or a digital SLR, is once you start filming, go ahead and do your whole turn and try not to stop until the end. Sometimes batteries die, you forget the airplane mode, someone calls, it cuts off your video. Things happen, but try to shoot from beginning to end so that people don't think you're editing the film. I think you know where I'm going there. You don't want to appear to not be playing fair. So the best way is to film from start to finish, and keep in mind too, we're here to have fun first. So things happen, people have to pause. I get that, but as a general rule, start to finish, and everyone, no one can complain about that. You're going to make mistakes, just kind of bowl right through them. Most mistakes are easily correctable. Usually in a game chat, you don't even need to post another video. Sometimes you do. Sometimes battles are completely messed up and you've got to re-roll them. At that point, you might need a correction video for that. But most of the corrections can be done, on your game chat, which is another critical piece of a YouTube war, is to find an app. Now we use WhatsApp, and I've used that for all the YouTube wars that I've been in. And typically you'll set up a game chat for everyone, and then you'll set up one for the Axis, one for the Allies, and to keep private strategy session conversations going. And then when the game's over, you can just delete those chats. Sometimes some of those chats are still out there, and we'll occasionally chime in, hey, how you doing, what's up, and all that kind of thing. Or hey, let's get another game going and get some more people active. So the WhatsApp is a good one. There's probably some others out there as well, but that's what we're going to be using on this one. And I say this one, the contest winners, we're planning on starting, I think, the first week of December. There was a couple people with some things that they wanted to get out of the way first, some prior commitments and whatnot. So we'll start, that first week of December, and we will get the ball rolling. We got 5 people, and I didn't put the list out here of who's who. Let me look that up. All right, so I had to pause for a second and look up our YouTube game that's going to start here. We did give it an operation name. We had 2 different ones, and we voted on it, and it'll be Operation Devil's Brigade. And if you're familiar with that, there was an actual unit that was a mixture of Canadian and U.S. soldiers that were trained kind of like in special forces, mode. So they were a little more elite than your average unit. And the guy that suggested that said that, hey, there's a movie that he used to watch, when he was younger. So actually the other night I pulled that up. I was able to find it on Amazon and watched it. And it was 1968, so it is what it is as far as the quality. It's not up to today's standards, but it was an interesting movie, and I may have seen it as a kid. It didn't ring a bell as I was watching it, but it was entertaining. But it did kind of lay out the creation of the Devil's Brigade. So we do have a gentleman from Canada, Panzer King, and the rest of the players are from the U.S. So it's kind of like that movie. So it's kind of an appropriate operational name. So Operation Devil's Brigade will begin the first week of December, and we have Dave, and you know what? I didn't write the last name on there, but he's going to be playing Germany and Italy. Commander Pack will be playing Japan. Harper will be playing the USSR. Panzer King will be playing USA and China. And then I'm going to be playing the Commonwealth and Britain and the Commonwealth, and then whatever's left of France. So we'll get that going here. Let's look at some details of how your turn should go.
Let me reiterate that the first rule here is that we're going to have fun, playing this game. So when mistakes are made, try and not let that bother you, because you're going to make a mistake. It's just, there's no way around it. Once that camera starts filming and you start doing your turn, you are going to forget the most basic of rules that you have known for years. And as soon as you're done filming, you may not even recognize it until someone has, brought it up, at a later date. But no problem. Almost every mistake is easy to fix. So let's get going with what you need to do before your turn, before you start filming. And obvious is your purchase, and I like to lay mine out, like in multiples of 10. So on a typical BBR out-of-box game, Japan has $26. So you got 10 here, and 6 there. So it's probably not what I would buy, but that's for this demonstration that works. A lot of people would like to set their units up by factory. Say this is a minor factory and you want to build 3 there, so you would do that, and then maybe these 2 are at a major factory or vice versa. That helps them out. Hey, this group is going to this factory, this group is going to this factory. So you could do it that way too, which might actually save you some thinking power when it's, at the end of your term when you're placing units, but that's completely up to you. The next thing is to plan your attacks. And I'm going to suggest that you not move any pieces, because invariably you're not going to get them back to where they were before you need to start filming. So that's why I've got these markers. Now, a lot of people will use chips, like we're going to do a battle here, and they're using these chips that are a different color than what you would use in a normal game. So they're, or maybe I want to non-com move those guys, I like to use these colored arrows. So I'm going to bring that up to do combat. These planes are going to come. These infantry are all coming in here. And to me, that signifies that. And then, maybe I'm going to non-com. I'm going to use a different color arrow. I'm going to non-com those over there. And maybe this bomber's going to move down there. Or maybe even it's going to attack that other direction. Not everything I'm showing here. This is just an example. So once you've got your markers out where you want to attack, I like to use on the back of these roundels, I've got these orange stickers. So I'm going to attack Amur, I'm going to attack Siberia. These kind of came out, they're pretty recent. HBG has these, I think Combat Miniatures, I think they have some of their own too as well. So I'm placing these out. I've got some arrows, so I know where I'm going to attack. I kind of want to mark these planes' movement, because like I said, once you start filming and you've moved planes, you may not remember where they came from, and that's going to be another mistake where you land them. Hey, it didn't have that kind of movement left, or blah blah blah. So to help you not make mistakes, a lot of people will use dice. These 2 planes here coming from an air base 1, 2, 3. So they're going to have 2 left, and then of course these 2 planes from Manchuria coming in here 1 are going to have 3 left. So I got these markers, these fuel gauge markers, and they work pretty good. There is a new fuel gauge dice coming that I played with at the BBR4 tournament in Atlanta, and I've got my order in for a couple of sets of those actually, but those would be pretty cool. So you've got your planes set up, you've got your territories you're attacking, you got some markers. You don't have to mark everything, but you know, generally it helps once you start filming, because that's when you forget, oh hey, yeah, I wanted this guy to attack here. Well, say you do your whole turn, you know, you've taken a moor, but you never resolved this attack. If it's marked, it's golden. Go ahead and do it. If it's not marked, you can't say, oh, or if it was a walk-in, you can't say, oh, I was going to walk in there. That's not really fair, because it's something maybe you didn't see and you're just now seeing. But if it's marked, you know, hey, I want to walk in there as well. Once the marker's there, it's golden, you know, in my mind. I mean, you've declared it before your turn started, so go ahead and do it. No problems there at all. So you got everything set up. You've got your planes movement marked, the battles you're going to do, maybe some markers where you're going to attack from. You've got your purchases all laid out. You've got your non-coms marked, you know, whether you're going to mark, you know, with arrows or a chip or whatever it takes for you. And it might be better to do battles with arrows and non-com with chips, you know, who knows. That's completely up to you. Another way I've seen it is people will write down all their instructions, you know, on a paper, like 2 guys from Korea are coming into a moor, 3 guys in artillery coming into a moor, and so they'll write all that out. And when you're using a tripod and it's sitting up there, you've got your paper in front of you and you make your moves. So that's a pretty good method too, but critical to have a tripod. Otherwise, you know, that'll never work. So the more you can get done before your turn, the better. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make my purchase right after my turn is done filming for the next turn, and then I'll leave it sit and come back to it maybe the next day or the day after. I may even mark a couple battles that I think I want to do and see how the turns progress from everyone else, and maybe I change those battles. But it kind of gives you an idea of what you want to do, and you can be thinking about it instead of just showing up and, like, you know, 2 or 3 days later, oh my, what am I going to do? If you've already got some things laid out, you've got a pretty good idea. You can always adjust, no big deal. It just helps me. So let me go over to the global war table over here, and I'll show you. I've got Germany set up, but really I'm waiting on Japan's turn right now. So I've got quite a few turns before Germany goes again, but I've got their purchases already set up. So here's my purchases that I've got set up for my next turn for Germany in this YouTube war that I'm doing right now, and I've kind of got these dollars down here. You know, this stack here is 30, this stack here is 40, and then the remainder of my income, you know, over here on this side. So it's easy to describe, easy to look at, and for the most part I do get it right. But on the last turn I miscounted my infantry in a move that I switched up my purchases, you know, before I went, and I didn't get the numbers counted right. So it happens, mistakes happen. But as you can see, I don't have any battles marked for Germany because Italy's turn is next, so I've got their purchase lined up here. I also have, you know, some items sitting down below that I may change at the last minute. You know, maybe I want a fighter instead of that, what is that, a medium bomber. So, you know, you kind of think about that as you're going, but
I've got, battles set up here for Italy and what they're going to do on their turn. And it's not going to matter because by the time I put all this video together and upload it, I'm sure Italy will have gone and that German purchase will have changed. All right, so we are back to the table. It's ready to do your turn. One of the things that's going to be critical is stating where your units are coming from and where they're going. Let's do the battle for Amur here. I've got from Manchuria a fighter and attack. They'll have a movement of 3 left. Easy to do. From Manchuria, I also have 3 infantry and 1 artillery. From Korea, I have 2 infantry moving into that battle. From C-Zone 19, I've got a battleship coming 1, 2 into C-Zone 5. I've got a transport picking up an infantry and artillery from Japan and going into C-Zone 5 and assaulting. I have another transport from C-Zone 6 into C-Zone 5 with 2 infantry. I got another battleship from C-Zone 6 to 5 for a shore bombardment. And then I have my 2 planes from Japan, 1, 2, 3 with a movement of 2 left. So as long as you're stating where everything's coming from and where everything's going, it's going to be clear. And same thing when you're landing your planes. Well, they have 3 movement left. They can go back to Japan. Well, actually, they probably can too, or if there's carriers sitting out here. It's going to be really helpful whenever you're doing your combat movements and your non-combat movements to specifically say the destroyer and sub from C-Zone 19 are going down to C-Zone 36. Tells everybody what you're doing, where you're doing it. That's going to be probably the most helpful thing you can do on your turn. And then, if you want, I always clean up my markers before I start rolling dice just to make sure I got all my battles set. You roll those out. You could move, the dice tray into the viewfinder and roll out this battle and then roll out that battle. A huge battle, you might need a larger dice tray. But as long as people are seeing your dice roll and you're taking casualties off as you do it, it should be a piece of cake. Work really well for you. I will give one tip here. When I've got some complex battles or maybe a battle that is maybe a little risky, I may take, and this is days before my next turn, some dice and lay them out like, here in Amur, the Russians have 6 2s and a 1 defending. What am I going to be able to bring in, and then I'm going to bring in the dice that I've got, attacking, and now I got some 4 1s, so I'm going to be attacking with this, and that's what he's going to defending, and that kind of gives me a little visual. Some people use battle calculators, but I don't use that in live play, so it wouldn't be fair to use it for me in this kind of play. I mean, if you want to do a battle calculator, you can plug that in, but to me, that it's easier for me to see the dice because I know dice don't roll like a battle calculator. That's just an odds thing. And if you want to do math, go right ahead, but I'd like to play a game, so I don't like math in my games, not like that. So it's just a personal choice. You can do it however you want to do it. The battle's over. The non-coms have been moved. It's time to place your units at the same scenario. Just tell people I've got a destroyer, or not a destroyer, a transport going into C-Zone 6, and in Tokyo or Japan, I've got an infantry and an artillery, and say this tank is going down in a factory down here in Shanghai, if you have one there already. Just specifically say where they're going, what they are. I think people will be able to follow it pretty well. And the reason I say that, a lot of times
I'm listening while I'm placing the units, so I don't have to stop the video, place units, and then go. So if you're telling people where you're placing them, where they're moving to, and what it is, you know, each unit, it'll be a lot easier especially for the people playing the game. Not so much for the people watching, because I'm not sure they were caring you're placing, you know, 2 units in Japan. So the final thing is collect your cash, but don't forget national objectives. And I've got cards for BBR. If you have out of box, I've got cards for that. I don't have cards for the global game, but I do have a player aids card that is a quick reference that I can look at, because a lot of times this is what you're going to forget when you're collecting your income is national objectives. Also, kind of a good idea to maybe set out the national objectives you think you're going to obtain before your turn starts. So the more you can do before your turn, the better off you're going to be doing your turn. And I also sometimes will run through kind of like a walkthrough that you might have if you were playing a different game or sports or whatever. Just do a kind of mental walkthrough. I'm going to do this, 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 and hopefully this battle turns out this way, and I'll finish off like that. It all helps, because what you don't want to do is not be prepared and I want to take those 2 in. No, I want to leave those there because I want to bring them in. If you're wasting time on camera, you're wasting all the viewers' time, and that's never a good thing. And I've done that. I've wasted time, you know, doing silly things or changing my mind in the middle of a turn, which is okay, but just be mindful of everyone else's time. And then another thing too, if you can't get to your turn, you know, your turn comes up, and you know, maybe you can't get to it for 2, 3, 4 days, it might be helpful to have one of your teammates do your turn, just to keep the game moving. Because I know sometimes I'm following a YouTube game, and for whatever reason, you know, I don't know, maybe someone's taking a week-long vacation, and then the game just stops for a week, and it's like you kind of not lose interest, but you may forget completely that game's even going on, and then it's hard to pick it back up. I think when you have a big long block like that where nothing's happening, I do think people lose interest. A couple other things I want to mention is before your turn starts, and I should have done this earlier, I was just looking at my notes. There's an order of casualties. Now, these 2 battles here, Russia's going to take the anti-aircraft gun first, then the 6 infantry. But when you're doing a naval battle that has, you know, battleships or carriers that have they have the ability to take damage, you kind of really want to know from your opponent when you're attacking, you know, such a navy, how do you want to do those casualties? Do you know what I mean, do you want to damage the carrier? You may need that carrier to land planes on, so maybe you don't no damage the carrier, take other hits other places. So you want to know in advance, before the turn starts, what the order of casualties are. And for the most part, land battles will be pretty easy because you're going to take the lowest units first. The exception might be if someone wants to hang on to their bomber. They might say, hey, on round 1, don't take the bomber. We'll see how the casualties go. Maybe the bomber survives with a couple guys, but it's always helpful to ask, as opposed to hearing later, oh, wait, I wouldn't have done that. I would have taken that infantry before the bomber. Or, you know, you've got a mechanized and an artillery, and you might think that the guy wants to take the mechanized, but maybe he wants that mechanized to move 2 spaces next turn. So always helpful to get the order of casualties first. And when you're setting up all these battles, this is the real advantage to a YouTube war game, I think, because when you're playing live, you've got that in your mind, you do it, and you move on. But when you've got several days between your next turns, you can plan out these two battles and come back at it next day, look at it, and it's like, I don't really want to do that. I want to take all these and head south and attack something else. So but keep in mind, don't move the pieces because you're not sure where they're going to go. But you got your markers and your arrows and whatnots, but you can just move them and then go from there. I think that's a huge advantage because that's where you can get some strategic moves that maybe you wouldn't see right away in a live game, or if you're just coming to it when it's your turn and you're not really doing a lot of prep work. I'm not saying you sit there and you stare over your map for an hour each day. That seems a little excessive, but I like to line up what I think the battles will be when it's my turn. And sometimes when my turn comes, it's like, I don't want to do that. We'll switch out, we'll do something else, or maybe you'll see this battle over here is actually better than what I've got lined up here, so you can change it around. And it usually works out. Sometimes it doesn't, but if it doesn't, it's because the dice can kick your, I was going to say kick your butt. And when I say that, I'm talking about anti-aircraft guns. And I think anyone that's watched my channel knows how I feel about anti-aircraft guns. They are definitely from the pit of hell, if I had to describe them. But anyway, I digress. Another thing you might want to ask somebody, if you had these planes here in Japan and U.S. was attacking a Navy, do you want to scramble? Seems like an obvious thing, but that gets forgotten a lot. I think in when you're filming a turn and you're getting ready for it and looking and, oh, dang it, they got an airfield that can scramble those planes. Because not all the times you want to scramble. A lot of times you don't. For various reasons, and you don't know their reasons. So that's also a good thing to ask for at the beginning. And as I'm looking here at my notes, I think that's about everything that I have here.
Three topics you should probably avoid on your YouTube or turn that you film. Number one, religion. Now, I like the good news of Jesus Christ, but not everybody is keen on forgiveness and grace. So probably would leave that one alone. Number two, politics. No. Don't. Just don't go there. Number three, don't drone on and on about your favorite sports team. No one really cares. Maybe 2 other subscribers on your whole channel root for that team. It's just not worth it, and it just causes more grief than you would know. So leave it alone. Let's move on to BBR specific advice tips.